It's my collaboration with Insane Clown Posse. Did you ever think you'd all be in cahoots together or something?
I don't know, but have they invited you down to the gathering yet?
Well, I'm supposed to go. They really haven't hit. They did a virtual interview type thing, and I did the interview with them, and it was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've not been to a Juggalo get together, but apparently my work is very popular with Juggalos, and I'm flattered and honored by that. So if things open up and they do, I gotta go now.
You have to.
I don't know if I'll paint up or cloud up, but.
The one and only Chris Hansen.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Better than being in Texas for the last week or so with no power and a lot of snow and cold, I assume. Huh? How you doing?
It sure has. It's been pretty awful. So I lost power on Monday morning-ish, about 4 or 5 in the morning, and did not have any power until Thursday. So we slept in our truck on Monday night. On Tuesday night, we slept at my husband's office. Because fortunately they still had power and water at the university. But then they turned the water off. So we came back home, camped a little more. And then Wednesday night, we stayed at a friend's house. And so Thursday, our power came back. We are still without water because my pipes exploded, basically. And then we were told on Saturday when the plumber finally came, because my landlord, thankfully I'm renting, but my landlord went through, I believe, 8 plumbers before we got somebody who would actually bother to come and see at all anything about what was going on.
Wow.
So when they came on Saturday, they said, cool, well, here we replaced all the stuff that happened that was the connection to the, of course, outdoor water heater, because Texas, so why do you need it to be indoors? And then they said, cool, well, your entire system also needs to be replaced, because it is galvanized steel, which means super rusty, very old, and not going to work out. So we'll come back at some point. That was 4 days ago.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So showering at friends' houses and, pouring water from old jugs and hoses into the toilet. It's living the camping life. Yeah. But I have power.
Yeah.
Glad you're back online.
Well, Chris, do you have any response to maybe everything that is going on right now in Texas?
Well, I just think it's horrifying that in this day and age, people are going through what Danica is going through, and so much worse. I'm not demeaning what you're going through. I know it's.
I had it easy.
The stories of young kids dying, freezing to death in their own beds and cars, and it seems to me, and I don't have a very intricate understanding of ERCOT or the system there, but I do understand that it was an attempt to sort of keep it controlled by Texas itself and companies in Texas, the regional electric authority there, and that they were not able to get power from other states and other areas, and it kind of backfired on them, and a lot of things broke down. And I saw an attempt to blame this on green energy and the new Green Deal, which is
right.
Not
Such
true.
utter
7% of the energy comes from there in Texas from windmills in Houston. And look, you get what you get when you have natural gas. The parts used to transmit it, to transport it, to freeze up, and you're in trouble. And what was particularly offensive, at least to me, is to see this whole Ted Cruz thing, which I'm sure you're watching it from a front row seat there in Texas. But to pawn that off and to see him just take off. Look, this is first day stuff. If you're a politician. Just the arrogance of it is so just outrageous. You get if you're a man of means in that position, you go get a big motorhome and fill it full of pizzas and coffee or beer or whatever you can put in it, and you go give it to the people. And then, when your job is done, you can go Well, actually, their family, I suppose. But God, that was just. And I saw they had a mariachi band in front of his house.
What?
I didn't see that.
Somebody had I guess they had I saw the video on one of the social media platforms. So they sent a mariachi band out, which I thought was clever. But
My God.
yeah, it's a debacle. One of my sons is a reporter for one of the television stations in Oklahoma City, and they didn't have it as bad as Texas, but they're not prepared for that kind of snow there. And
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not nearly as bad as Texas, but they had a rough go for a little bit, and he was out in the thick of it. So I was talking to him, and obviously Oklahoma borders Texas, but it was just rough. And I'm glad you guys are turning around. And then I saw a video from Austin today. It was 70 degrees and sunny. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah, it's been 65 all day today.
The disaster has gone away. I mean, we've had snow up here in the Northeast, but we're used to it. They put plows on garbage trucks and they clean the streets, and in 3 days, it's all over, and that's it. It's we move through it, but it's tough. So I'm glad you're all right. And I wish.
Yeah, thanks. We're dealing with it as we can. So.
And it's good to have distractions, and that's why we're thrilled to be able to keep doing these things virtually. And I'm happy to have
You roll through. You just keep going. That's what keeps people entertained and informed and educated and everything else. So,
but we haven't seen mariachi bands yet, so we'll have to get a mariachi band on here sometime.
Pull that out. Yeah.
But everything's okay with your son? He's doing okay?
Yeah, he's great.
Okay.
As I always tell him, it's the reporter's prayer. Please don't let it happen. But if it does, let me be the first guy there. He was in the thick of it. But yeah, everybody's good.
Well, that's good. Well, I guess just to pivot just a little bit and I know we briefly talked last time we had you on about Jimmy Hoffa, but I wanted to know if there was a moment in history, maybe before you were born, that you wish that you could have been a reporter for, or like a moment in time before your time that you wish that you could have been reporting on.
Oh, I think so. If you read any of Walter Cronkite's memoirs, you'll read about World War II and the daring deeds that these guys performed with Edward R. Murrow and all of those guys in Europe in the theater of the war. And I remember specifically one story where, as a reporter in World War II, the military allowed Walter Cronkite to get into one of these gliders that they used to land in Italy to invade Nazi-held territory, and they were nothing more than metal tubes, like a tubular frame with canvas, and they'd launch them out of the back of a larger plane, and these things would glide in, and they'd somehow try to land these things, and the soldiers would get out and fight World War II, the battles of World War II in some cases, and the Nazis would put these razor sharp pieces of metal up, knowing that these things were covered by fabric and that would cut them to shreds. And they actually, in those days, as a reporter, they put Cronkite and many others in these gliders and said, "Oh, off you go cover the war." And can you imagine the experience that would have been? So yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have been a part of that. And I didn't really have a piece of the Iraq War in any meaningful way. I suppose you could argue that I covered the war on terror here, but that's not anything close to the conflict that a lot of my colleagues saw or have seen over the years. But I think that would have been a very interesting, important thing to cover, World War II. And I'm a bit of a buff when it comes to that, and reading about the reporters and people and Vietnam as well, for different reasons. That was a coming of age for the generation before me. And you look at the older 60 Minutes guys, Mike Wallace and Morley Safer and Reasoner and Smith and all those guys, they made their names in Vietnam. And in those days, there really wasn't the control of the media covering a war like that. You hopped on a Huey and you went to the front lines and you covered the battle and you came back and you sent the film back to the United States and they cut it. So it wasn't like instantaneous live where the government and the military tried to sort of control it. Sometimes for understandable reasons, but today it's instantaneous. I mean, look at us now. 1 minute you're dealing with your water shortage, and the next minute you're live broadcasting.
Yeah, right.
It's a whole different thing. So there are trade-offs, but yeah, I would have loved to, if I had a shot at doing something before my time, it'd be World War II for sure, being in European theater.
Awesome. Wow.
Well, Chris, last time we spoke briefly about amateur sleuths, things like web sleuths, maybe college students who are trying to go into investigative journalism. So what are some of the best ways to research or gather sources when you're doing an investigation, or any other advice you can give?
Well, I think with the internet now, obviously there are so many ways to gather information, but we have to gather it responsibly. Going to Wikipedia isn't necessarily the be-all, end-all, as we know, but I think there's a tendency among younger journalists or wannabe journalists to merely mine the public record. And I think there needs to be a civics course taught in what is true and what is not true when it comes to stuff that's on the internet. Just because you see it on a social media platform, anybody can say whatever they want about the three of any one of us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got a much longer history in the public eye, so there's more there. But there's tons of stuff out there that's just not true. Mm-hmm. People say things and do things, or they get upset with you for one thing or another, or they disagree with the story you've done, and people can generate a misinformation campaign. Mm-hmm. Like that, and use bots and programmable bots, and we saw it in the 2016 election with the Russians' influence in the campaign. We've seen it with political campaigns all across the country who can seek to smear or slant or create the impression that the election was stolen, as we saw in this last election, which there is no evidence to that occurring. But it's dangerous when people don't do the due diligence. And I think we really, really, really need to be careful moving forward. And I'm all for citizen journalists. What I don't like to see is when somebody tries to go out and make a name for themselves and just, fall into the trap of creating a misinformation campaign or taking a piece of this and a piece of that. And because they have access to a sophisticated video editing system, creating something that looks very slick, but has absolutely no ethical or intellectual fiber to it. And I see this over and over and over again, and it's a trap we have to be careful not to fall into. I'm held to standards when I do a piece for Discovery Plus, like the 2 series that just came out, or the podcasts, or anything else I do. It's reviewed. I need to be truthful and honest and be transparent about my methodology. Well, a lot of people in the digital media age do not. They don't think they have to. They're their own editor, their own moral arbiter, and I think that's potentially dangerous. And so, as a consumer of information, I'm not one to say we need to regulate or crack down on the First Amendment. I risked my life for the First Amendment over and over again over 40 years. But as consumers, we need to be educated and just understand that just because it's on Twitter doesn't mean it's true. Just because somebody says something on social media doesn't mean it's true. You have to think about it. You have to verify it. And I hear people say things all the time. Well, I saw it on the internet. Well, where? The internet is, this ubiquitous thing. Right. Who said it? And a lot of times it gets down to circular confirmation. And I learned this as a young reporter in Detroit. You call, a sergeant in the police department, and you say, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And he goes, "No, but let me ask around." And so by the time you've called 5 other people, and you get back to you get to the 5th person. Well, the 5th person has heard from the first person who asked on your behalf and said, "Oh yeah, I heard that." Well, that's not a confirmation of the fact. That's the rumor you started at the beginning of the day being now confirmed in circular confirmation.
Yeah, that's like a game of telephone.
Well, right, exactly. Well, I heard that. Well, how'd you hear it? Well, I got it from Lieutenant so-and-so. Where'd he hear it? From Sergeant so-and-so. Where'd he hear it? Well, Chris Hansen from, NBC or have a seat with Chris Hansen called me. You gotta watch that. And I see it rampant on social media today.
Yeah, it's interesting because before we started this, Danica and I recently watched, I believe it's on Netflix, the new series about Eliza Lam and the whole Cecil Hotel. Yeah. And there was a part, I'm not sure whether you had a chance to watch it yet, Chris, but there was
I want to. The story fascinates me.
It is. So without really giving anything away, there was an internet campaign against one gentleman who is a performer. Like, he sings like dark metal music and he presents himself a certain way. And the internet sleuths caused this gentleman to literally have to at one point commit himself because they were all attacking him and said, "You did it. You killed her." It's
completely baseless accusations.
Baseless.
And I mean, just absolutely obscene.
But at the same time, though, we have podcasts that have, resulted in people, being found not guilty or exonerated. So it's you don't want to shut everybody down, but you do need to be really smart about how you process the information.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Check, double check, triple check, and make sure your sources are correct. I mean, just be, like you said, because Joe Schmo said it on Twitter doesn't mean it's real. So what was a moment in your career that you knew that you were successful? And maybe that definition is different to you than it is to us, but what was a moment that you knew, like, hey, I've officially made it in this career?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that struck me in terms of, wow, I've achieved something. And they've come at different times in my career. They've come in different places. In Lansing, when I started out, breaking a story from the state capitol or changing somebody's life in a small but meaningful way. But I do remember, out of a lot of moments, we did a story on sweetheart scams and gypsy scams.
Mm-hmm.
One of them specifically was on the West Coast, and we confronted these people who were operating the scam, and they had gotten the life savings of an elderly man in Lake Tahoe. I remember he lived in a motor trailer home in a very modest lifestyle, but had saved up a bunch of money and was to be comfortable. And because of our story and the exposure it got, this woman was forced to go into court and produced $150,000 in cash in a grocery bag and had to turn it over to the guy from whom it was stolen. Now, 150 grand, it's a lot of money, but it's not life-changing to a lot of people. But to this man, on this day, to get this bag of money, fixed his life. He was in his 80s, and it just wow. That happened because of our story. And this guy's going to be okay now. He's got some of his life savings back. Didn't get it all. It's not enough to, feed a family of 5 for 20 years, but it was enough for him to pull it together and live comfortably. And it was just, that hit me. It's like, we can change things, whether it's something on this organic level that nobody will ever talk about, for which you will likely never win an award. That meant something, and it reminded me that this is why we do what we do. And so whether it's confronting predators or hearing the voice of the victim, all of that is important because it leads to justice and it prevents other people from becoming victims. So, for 17 years now, we've been doing the sexual predator investigations. And I just spent part of today reaching out to the sheriff's deputy in Florida who tracked down and knocked on doors of hotels to find this young woman who was, lured by a predator. It's a great story, but those stories need to be told over and over again because our attention span is not great. And you can talk about all these cases and you can show the crimes being committed as we've done with the Predator franchise, but still you got to keep at it. And that's part of what drives me.
Amazing.
Whew. All right, we're going to pivot again.
I'm ready.
We're going to do a lot of pivoting today.
That's cool.
It's like the Knicks playing the Nets tonight, We're finally, here in New York, they're finally letting people in the arenas to watch sports. So it's a big night here.
Yeah. Ooh.
Love it. All right. So, again, we have talked about Hoffa before, but going a little bit further down different paths here, is there a conspiracy theory about anything in general that intrigues you the most?
Well, I mean, I call BS on a lot of conspiracy theories,
As you should.
I mean, I'm mindful, especially today, as there were hearings in the Senate about the insurgency at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, and to hear the testimony of the brave men and women who fought to protect the senators and congresswomen of our country, and to protect this temple of democracy. And for people along the way to have said, well, this was Antifa posing as, Trump supporters, and it's BS. These people got whipped up by a president whose pride was injured, and created the impression that the election was stolen. And got people all wound up, and they went in there and committed these crimes, and 5 people ended up dead, and more law enforcement personnel were injured on that day than on any day since 9/11. So let that soak in for a minute. That's what was going on. And all along the way, you're hearing, testimony from witnesses, again, brave men and women in blue, protecting the Capitol, who are saying that these insurgents were saying, we're fighting for you. This is Blue Lives Matter. Well, Blue Lives Matter, then why are you engaging in my life?
Right? What?
Right? Yeah. So that's what was going on in there. So this whole notion that this was, and that was born from another conspiracy theory that was, the manufacturer of the voting machines was corrupt, and
Right.
and there's no evidence of any of this, and that's why you see this multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Fox, for instance, some of whose hosts were, pushing this conspiracy theory. And it first of all, it defies common sense, but you get people who are mad or angry or who feel disenfranchised and were somehow touched by what the Trump people were saying and what some of the supporters were saying. They start to buy into these conspiracy theories, and it's dangerous. And so, for all of us, again, it goes back to, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Just because that president said this is what's happened doesn't mean it's true. And you will hear from people who are supporters of his who will say, that's just him being him. He's a salesman. He's a real estate guy. He's full of puffery, but he's done some good things for the business world. But guess what? There are some people who buy 100% of that, and that's not good for America.
Right.
It just isn't. And so again, it's buyer beware, consumer beware. Do your due diligence. It's like being a 2-year-old. Just keep asking the question, why? And at some point, you hopefully get to the truth.
Well, it's interesting because, like what you just mentioned, people were getting hurt, people were getting killed. Conspiracy theories can be dangerous. It's not like, I guess a different conspiracy theory would be like, oh, is the moon landing real? Obviously, something like that's not hurting or killing people, but there are very dangerous conspiracy theories that are happening. And
look at QAnon.
Right.
I mean, look at that. Q. Well, Q has been wrong, 22 times now. And yet people still believe in it. It breaks apart families. People want to believe in something so badly because, of their lot in life. It's no different than, when you saw Tim McVeigh and Terry Nichols, blow up the Oklahoma City Federal Building. They were disenfranchised. They wanted to make a statement. But that's, and all this stuff that came out leading up to it and afterwards. I mean, I covered that story 25 years ago and was in the thick of it. And the conspiracy theories that I heard that were told to me with a straight face by relatives, Terry Nichols' brother, he would sit there and draw cartoons of a fighter jet flying over the Oklahoma City Federal Building, putting a bomb down the chimney. I said, are you out of your mind? And they would go out there and preach this stuff, and some people would buy into it.
People are way too impressionable. I can't figure it out. But Danica, I'll ask one more question. You ask one more, and then we'll go to some random ones.
Great.
Okay, we're pivoting again. Here we go. Here comes another pivot. Okay, so something that I find very interesting is that you've had your likeness appear in, well, like The Boys, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, The Simpsons, and then I guess they've used your likeness for South Park and Family Guy. So I was wondering, were there any roles or your likeness that didn't come to fruition, or maybe a franchise or something that you would like to appear in?
It's funny you bring that up, because just today I was chatting with somebody. In fact, I was talking to my son in Oklahoma City, and there's a story out of Detroit on a young guy whose nickname was White Boy Rick, and there was a documentary made and a film made with Matthew McConaughey, and he was 16, 17 years old and was a drug dealer in the city of Detroit, a white kid who had been an informant for the FBI and liked the informant lifestyle and decided he was going to do it in real life. And he was sentenced under a draconian drug sentencing to life in prison and spent darn near 30 years, way too much time for the crime he committed. And so he finally got out in the last year or so. But they did a documentary, and I was in it. I was a reporter in Detroit when it was all actually happening, and covered it and broke the story, actually. And then when the movie came, I actually had a cameo appearance in the movie as a news anchor, and it got cut from the final version of the film. I guess it was too much of a method actor for them, but
fair enough.
It didn't make the final version of the film on that one, but that would have been fun.
So did you actually record your voice for The Simpsons?
I did The Simpsons. I didn't do Family Guy. They did an imitation, and the South Park, they always imitate you. So you never know South Park is coming until it's on the air. They don't tell you. I mean, Simpsons, I went to the studio and I had producers and people in my ear, and so that was
cool.
That's so cool.
The coolest thing about The Simpsons, and we'll get to South Park in a minute, but the coolest thing about The Simpsons was that when it all was said and done, a box of Simpsons swag arrived at the house or at the office, I guess, and it was just, stuff you couldn't get anywhere else, including a GPS that was in Homer Simpson's voice. So it'd be like, don't turn right and 400 feet. And it was, the kids thought it was a
Oh my God, that's so cool.
But South Park, my sons went to high school with, kids whose dads were, powerful in industry and entertainment and politics. And so to have a dad on TV wasn't, really a big deal. But when I was on South Park, suddenly I was very cool. Chris Hansen Predator episode on South Park. I was actually on assignment on the West Coast, and the episode started to air, and one of my agents texted me and said, South Park's doing it tonight, and it's pretty funny. And about 20 minutes later, I get another text, it's taking a dark turn. I'll watch that in 3 hours and see what that's called. It's clever. It's a clever show.
Yeah, no surprise there that it took a dark turn while South Park,
Dark, funny but dark, yeah.
Awesome. And the Boys was like such a cool cameo. Did you
that
get a
was
chance?
very cool.
My goodness.
I really enjoyed that, and they shoot that up in Toronto, and so I went up there, and just a wonderful crew and very professional, and that's a dark show too. But incredibly clever and witty and well written, and it was a lot of fun to do it.
It was like cool to see too, because it's like I like to think that in this crazy supernatural world where people have abilities, that they're watching you on the TV still the same way that we're watching you, in this regular world. I'm like, superheroes watch Chris Hansen, like that's pretty badass. So.
I never thought about it that way, but that is kind of badass.
It's fitting. Yeah. All right, one more question before we go to our very random ones.
Sure.
What would you say is your biggest accomplishment outside of journalism?
My kids, of whom I'm very proud, who are in the process of achieving great things in their own right, and I'm very fortunate to have very close relationship with my kids, and just to see them become grown-ups. It's very fulfilling, and it's why you have kids, right? I mean, not everybody, I think, in the world is as close to their kids as I am, and I'm very fortunate to have that relationship. And there's only so much you can do, as a parent, and then they're kind of on their own, and they've done real well in each of their individual fields. And I try to always be there and be close to them, but sometimes you just gotta let them do their own thing. I mean, my oldest is 29 years old, which is shocking, when you think about it. But and he's great, and you let them go, and they actually come back and hang out and talk about the business and the world and cryptocurrency and everything else that's going on. It's pretty cool.
They must be so proud of you. I mean, like, you've really set a standard, and you've set the bar so high for what investigation journalism should be, and getting these stories out there. They must be so proud to have you as a dad.
Well, thank you. That's kind, and I think they do. But at the same time, I'm just the lunkhead dad who done, I think, most of the stuff right and some of the stuff not right, and try to have a pretty good sense of humor about the whole thing along the way.
Do you have any dad jokes?
Any dad jokes?
I know that's always a tough question to ask off the cusp, because
I'm sure I do. I'll think of a really funny one the minute we get off air here.
Of course.
Nothing pops into mind at this particular moment.
No worries. All right, so we have a couple of random questions. These are just random. Let's see what we got, and then we'll play the quick game. So the first random question is, let's see, Jude. Oh, okay. Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show? Maybe one that you're currently watching?
A guilty pleasure TV show. God, I do watch a lot of TV. What would be the guilty pleasure one? Well, I think it would be, I think South Park.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Did you ever get a chance to see Book of Mormon?
I did. The fellows who represent me over at William Morris took me one night, and it was very, very good. It was very funny. It's worth seeing if you get into New York. Sadly, Broadway is shut down right now, but hopefully they'll get cranked up again soon. But it was very worthwhile. It was very well done.
All right, Danica, we're going as soon as Broadway opens up.
We have so many shows to see.
I know, Hamilton.
So many
we got
people.
it. Yeah.
Beetlejuice.
Living right here, it's you get lazy because you figure, well, we can do it anytime, or the next time somebody's in town, or we'll do that, and it's all of a sudden it's gone. I missed Network with Bryan Cranston, and I had a connection to go do it. And I'm sorry that I did, because it was, he's great, anyway, and whatever he does, and I missed it, but all of that. Once it gets, I think there's going to be a big demand for Broadway, obviously when things open back up again. So
let's hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have several dates lined up with some of our former show guests to see various shows. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're going, and you can join us too, Chris. Open invite. Come down. We'll all go. All right, let's do one or two more random ones. Danica.
Yeah. What is being hidden in Area 51?
What is being hidden in Area 51? That's a great question. I think a lot of dirt and a lot of conspiracy theories.
Okay, but mostly dirt?
Mostly dirt. Maybe some radioactive material from some experiments that happened out there many years ago.
That would make a lot of sense, too.
All right, let's do one more random one. Okay, let's see. Okay, do you have a favorite musician, or maybe an album that people would be surprised about?
Well, I'm a Stones freak, just to put that out there. So I love those guys, and probably if there was something that would be surprising to people would be, I like jazz too, and Miles Davis, for instance.
Oh, okay. Good choice. I was going to say, are we talking good jazz?
Lose a half a Sunday to Miles Davis very easily, and so many others. So probably, jazz and blues I like a lot, and the old blues. I could really get lost in Hound Dog Taylor and the House Rockers.
Okay.
They're
I'm
great.
pretty sure my husband has one of their vinyls.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You've got it.
Well, kind of before we go into the game that we have, I guess like a good segue would be I think I saw that you are doing a merch collaboration with ICP. Is that something?
What about that? And by the way, let me give my brothers from Detroit some love here. Insane Clown Posse, and these guys are. I know they've got a big fan base, but these guys, among many other clever songs they've done, when I had them on my YouTube show, I played in the background. They have a song called "To Catch a Predator," and it's genius, absolute genius.
How did I not know they had a song?
I didn't know either. I looked it up and played it, and I played it on the intro and the tag, and what a nice couple of guys and their whole team. They're just lovely fellows, and so we got messed around and I collaborated with them. I did some stuff, and once they had me on, I had them on my show, and they said, "Well, would you do ours?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's fair is fair," So I went out there to where Violent J lives, and we hung out. It was great guys. But yeah, so they got talking. They said, "Well, have you done merch?" I said, "We played around with have a seat T-shirts and this and that and the other thing." And I said, "Well, do you mind if we work something up?" I said, "Go for it." So it was really clever, I thought, what they came up with. So it's my collaboration with Insane Clown Posse. Did you ever think you'd all be in cahoots together or something?
I don't know, but like, have they invited you down to the gathering yet?
Well, I'm supposed to go. They really haven't hit. They did a virtual interview type thing, and I did the interview with them, and it was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've not been to a Juggalo get together, but apparently my work is very popular with Juggalos, and I'm flattered and honored by that. So if things open up and they do, I gotta go now.
You have to.
I don't know if I'll paint up or cloud up, but can you imagine the crowd reaction to see that?
It'd be incredible.
I mean, I don't hate the idea.
Here's the interesting thing, though, and this is how good of guys they are. So a lawyer who's involved in the Peter Nygaard case, which is the billionaire fashion mogul who turns out to be a horrific predator who was just prosecuted and is the topic of one of our Discovery Plus documentaries that just came out, Unseemly. He turns out is a big Insane Clown Posse fan. And so the producer with whom I was working said, "Hey, can you call your guys and get a birthday video?" I said, "Absolutely." So and for 4 minutes, it was so good that this lawyer thought it was people imitating ICP. And it's actually ICP. He goes, "Where'd you find these guys to do it?" I said, "That's Insane Clown Posse." He goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." It's great fun. They have a big fan base.
Okay, yeah. So, follow-up question: what is your go-to Faygo flavor?
Red pop. Gotta have red pop.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. All right. I'm a peach. I'm a peach, but I've never tried red pop. Down in Miami, we don't really have a lot of Faygo. Every time I visit Detroit or Ohio.
Well, yeah, Detroit that's what we grew up with. You went to the Faygo distributor, you got the case of pop, and you drank it all, and then you saved the bottles.
You can get Faygo in South Florida, but it's like you got to know where to go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like that.
Oh yeah,
the underground Faygo places. All right. So we have another game planned for you, Chris. So this is a game of Would You Rather. There's no wrong answers. So let's bring up the first one. Danica, do you want to read the first one?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Let's see. We're getting the graphic ready, and here we go. Okay.
Would you rather? So this is during interviewing. Would you rather wear your suit backwards or wear a stovepipe hat?
I think I'd rather wear a stovepipe hat.
Looks a little more comfy.
It'd have to be a big one. I've got a big head. But
So here's what I'm thinking. We go stovepipe hat, and then we go some maybe Violent J makeup too. I think that's a good combination.
Perfect.
All right. Here's the next one. Would you rather songify a news report or do a report in a different language?
I'd like to do a report in a different language. I have a basic grasp of Spanish. I was much better when I was, when I'm immersed in it for a few days. But I think that would be, I'd love to do a whole report in Spanish. or another language. I think that'd be fun.
Awesome. All right, next one.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather be the first reporter to report from the moon or be the first reporter to report on every continent?
I think I'd like to go to the moon. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Me too. I don't think we're so far off. I mean,
Yeah. I think you'd have to do that. Have you seen the video from Mars, by the way?
Oh, my
Perseverance,
God, right?
yes.
Isn't that astounding?
It's
Have you heard Mars? That's what I want to know.
Wind,
Have you
yeah, I heard
Mars.
the other
It's
day.
so cool.
Yeah.
Sound designer's dream.
yeah,
It's
right.
amazing the quality of video.
Yeah.
We're living in the future. Like
Yeah.
it's so wild, but goodness. All right. Here's the next one. Would you rather do a news report after eating a ghost pepper or do a news report after being awake for 48 hours?
Being awake for 48 hours. I've done that.
Oh, no.
I don't know that I'd be too good with a ghost pepper. Being up for 48 hours, I can do. I know that.
Okay.
But the ghost pepper,
Not so much.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't like to sweat when I do the news.
Fair enough. All right.
Or not be able to feel one's face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just chugging milk the whole
Steam
time.
coming out of my ears, yeah.
All right. Next one.
All right. Would you rather host a New Year's Eve show in Vegas or host a New Year's Eve show in New York?
Oh, New York for sure.
Hmm.
I tell you, that was weird because Gabrielle and I walked out there the night before, and it was just so quiet and so few people, and it was, it was usually we just, living not far away from it, kind of stay away from it, let the out of towners have it for the night. And, but it was, it was eerie almost. And then of course that night it was just a few first responders and teachers and people who had tickets, as it should be. But I'd love to do that. I think that'd be a riot.
Awesome.
We'll see.
All
what we
right.
can
Okay. Would you rather go back in time to interview Edgar Allan Poe or go back in time to interview Mark Twain?
Mark Twain for sure. Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice. All right. Let's see.
the
What's
last
next? Maybe?
Oh, no, we
Oh,
got
yeah.
a couple more. Okay. Would you rather find a definitive answer to the JFK assassination or a definitive answer to the murders of Tupac and Biggie?
JFK, for sure. But a guy my age, among my first news recollections are, the JFK assassination, and so that would be fascinating to me.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
And, Tupac and Biggie too. I mean, that's interesting stuff. But I think JFK.
Awesome. All right. This might be the last one. Let's see. Would you rather get stuck on a New York subway or get stuck on a New York ferry?
I think the ferry, only because you could see around you. The subway gets a little confining when you're stuck. I've only been stuck on it a couple times and not for very long, but it's when you're down in the subway, it closes in on you pretty quickly. At least on the boat, at least you get towed and you can see the horizon and you get some fresh air. Subway gets you're breathing other people's breath pretty quickly in the subway.
Yeah. Fair. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us
Well,
again.
thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. It was great fun as always.
Thank you. Well, before we wrap this up, we just wanted to know if there was any other updates on any of the cases that you're currently investigating that you are allowed to legally share with us.
Sure, absolutely. So people should watch the Onision in Real Life, which is on Discovery Plus right now. It's a 3-part series, and we have a 4th part coming, which is going to be very interesting. So that's news for everybody, and that'll be out by April, I believe. We're shooting that right now. And then the Unseemly, the Peter Nygaard investigation is out on Discovery Plus right now as well, which is a 4-part series, which is just absolutely mind-boggling and important for everybody to see. So that and the podcast Predators I've Caught is on episode 5, believe it or not, and that's going very well. And I want to thank everybody for checking that out. And then we're having meetings as we speak about the new Predator for TV.
Oh, okay. All right.
News on that in the next few weeks.
I always hate to say, I'm looking forward to it because I mean, obviously I love watching you host it and To Catch a Predator is like one of my favorite things to watch, but at the same time, I just don't like thinking about the predator part of it. But everything else is fantastic.
Like I went back and I started re-binging Killer Instinct right now. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, it was a good show. Good show. And that's kind of how I got to know all the Discovery folks, and how we got started on all that. But it's a great brand and a great network, and I'm very fortunate to be partnered with them. So it's very cool.
Amazing. So really quick, we're going to plug our upcoming shows. So on Thursday, we have Lauren Levera. She's the actress and the star of the new Terrifier 2. Next week, we have Rick Prince and Rashad Santiago. They are special effects artists from the show Face Off. The following Tuesday, because they were in the same scenario as Danica, they're both Texas locals. We have Matt Novetsky and Alski from Icarus Bell. At the end of the month, we're taking a brief little hiatus. I'm going to LA for a couple weeks. Can't say why, but I'll be out there. We have Mark Farner, who's the singer from the Grand Funk Railroad. So keep your eyes peeled. Pretty crazy, Chris. We would love to have you back in the future. I mean, you're so entertaining. We appreciate you like you have no idea.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on as always. And you guys stay safe and healthy. And hopefully things continue to warm up in Texas for you, Danica. And hopefully you don't have to go through that again.
All right. Well,
we're going to get water soon.
And hopefully we'll see you at the gathering, and we'll see you guys all on Thursday. Be safe, everybody. Bye.